All right, welcome everybody to our Anson Youth Leadership Part 3. This is our third installment of our Anson Youth Leadership series. The last forum we met with our chairperson for the County Commissioner who was on tonight, as well as our interim county manager, and we were able to talk about just local government and get a better understanding of how the roles that we play as citizens of Anson County. Kind of rolling with that, we had a wonderful opportunity, a wonderful learning experience to learn about county zoning. I actually sat in on the meeting, I think it was the second or third meeting a couple months ago, sat in with Mr. Williams and Ms. Jazar, and they gave a presentation about some changes that are going to take place in Anson County. It was pretty much blew my mind. I didn't know much about zoning, what it implied, and all that good stuff. So I thought it would be a great learning opportunity for our youth here in the county to learn about zoning and the zoning ordinance that will be coming down the line. So that's kind of our introduction. We have, like I mentioned, we have Mr. David Williams and Mrs. Cherise Chazar. Hope I'm saying it right. Here, who are actually working with Anson County to do their ordinance, their zoning ordinance. So glad to have them on this evening. They're in for a treat. All right, so I like to always do this. I like to let us know where we are, where we're gonna start, so we can kind of start on time and end on time. I know y'all's time is very valuable. 6:30 is getting dark early, so I don't want to keep y'all up too late this evening. So again, this is just our agenda. We'll start. I did my introduction. We'll get into the presentation. I think I made everybody a co-host who needs to be a co-host, and then we'll get into some questions, and we'll have some discussion with the panel, and then we'll have some final thoughts from the panel, and we'll wrap it up with some upcoming events and announcements. So with that being said, our participating youth for tonight, drum roll. So this group of kids is very special. It's kind of a mixed crowd. I like the fact that we've been able to mix some organizations and kind of get some partnerships going there with that. But first up, we have Caitlyn Buchanan, who I'm not sure if she's on just yet. If she's not, one of our co-hosts just kind of spotlight her. But Caitlyn, she will be representing the Anson Youth Leaders of the Caraway Foundation. Then we have Micah Chance. Micah is on. I'm not sure if he can hear us, but Micah is a 4-H member at large. Hoping that we can get his sound straightened out, but we'll see. And Mr. Malik Cooper. Let's go ahead and I think he hopped in. Malik Cooper is also representing the Anson Youth Leaders of the Caraway Foundation. I'm gonna make him a. All right, and then we have Andrew Martin, who is a busy bee. He's under his club leader is Miss Betty Garris. He's part of the Busy Bees 4-H club. And then we have his sister Zoe Martin, who was also a Busy Bee 4-H club member. So thank you to this group of I don't want to say children, this group of youth who have been rocking with us for a couple of weeks now, and they've been soaking up all this knowledge and putting together these questions. So I'm really glad and thankful to have them on this evening. All right, our panelists. This lady right here, Miss Janine Rawack, is retired, but she's probably working just as hard now as she was when she was our county extension director. She knows a lot about this county, so it only felt right to reach out to have her and sit on this panel. So look forward to seeing what kind of advice she offers, feedback she will give to our questions. And then our presenters. As I mentioned, we have Mr. David Williams and Cherise Chazar of the Ability Development Group Incorporated. Mr. Williams is the president and the principal planner for the urban planning firm. This service planning firm specializes in providing land use, urban and strategic planning services, as well as leadership and organizational development for public and private sector clients. And I believe they're based out of Kannapolis, North Carolina.
Gastonia.
Gastonia, North Carolina. So again, I'm extremely excited to have them on this evening, especially since they're working so closely with Anson County to help us figure some things out with our ordinance. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to you guys. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I will let Mr. Williams and Mrs. Shazard let y'all do y'all's thing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cole, and um, good evening, young people. I have a PowerPoint presentation I'm gonna make. I did receive your questions, and we did receive your questions, and I'm just glad to be here tonight. I used to coach basketball for like 9 seasons, high school basketball, a little bit of middle school. So, I like being around young people, and I want to see you all make it. And I want to thank Mr. Cole for the opportunity to be here tonight, and Miss Janine uh, for this opportunity. I don't take it lightly. So we're gonna need your undivided attention. I know I'm not a teacher, but I am a faculty member. I do teach at a university in Charlotte, 49ers. Some of you probably heard of that. So we will need your undivided attention because we have a lot of information to share with you tonight that some of you probably have not heard of. And so, well, we did address your questions, but I addressed them in a way like I address them with adults. And so that's how I'm going to go with it, because I know you all are extremely intelligent, very smart. You're probably smarter than I am anyway. So you're going to be able to get this. So I do have my partner with me, colleague with my firm, Cherie Jazar. I attended, so Appalachian State University. And I went to undergraduate there, meaning just college, and I went on to earn a master's degree. And I'll turn over Cherie 30 seconds, introduce herself and make an opening comment, and I'll get right into the PowerPoint.
Good evening, students. My name is Cherie Jazar, and I am a planner, city planner, and I've been working as a city planner for over 20 years now. It's hard to believe. And I love seeing these beautiful faces. I don't know if you know how to use your chat box. You probably do, but I'd like to know how old you are and what grade you are. As Mr. Williams starts to present his presentation, if you have an opportunity just to go in the chat and say what grade you're in and your age, that would be awesome for us to see. We started out planning in university, which of course, after you graduate high school, but we've spoken to a lot of students over the years, and we just want to see who we're speaking to tonight. Thank you, Mr. Williams, for that opportunity. And I think this can give you a chance to go ahead and get your presentation. Oh, I see there's Jeremiah, 14 in the 8th grade, 12-year-old in the 7th grade. Wow. Okay, so we got 8th middle schoolers joining us tonight, it looks like. So that's our audience, Mr. Williams, middle schoolers.
Absolutely, and thank you.
Oh, I see an age 9 too, I'm sorry. So there's elementary school as well.
Yeah, Zoe Martin. Yeah, Zoe Martin chatting in. So thank you all. Thank you for being tonight. And look, you could be doing something else. I tell you a little story. What you all are going to learn tonight, I didn't know anything about in elementary or middle school, high school. I really didn't learn about it until I got to college, which I hope all of you are looking at and planning to do. But some you may go a different direction, but we're here tonight to talk to you about zoning, and we did want to give you a setup. So see Malik Cooper coming in the house. So thank you, Malik, for showing up. So we'll get started. I'm gonna share my screen, Mr. Cole, and we're gonna get started, and we're gonna try to answer questions. Cherie may cut me off a little bit as I do my PowerPoint, and that's fine. She's gonna bounce in and out. Okay, and we'll answer all your questions, but if there's something that's burning that you may not understand, once this is over, because in the essence of time and trying to make sure we stay on time, you can send that email or get with Mr. Cole, okay? He'll get with it. We'll try to answer tonight as well, okay? But if we run out of time, don't worry about it. Just write it down, okay? And Mr. Cole, he knows about this stuff as well. And also Miss Janine Ward, she knows about it. And so we'll get started. I'm gonna share my screen, Mr. Cole. I'm gonna attempt to them now. This technology now, these
No,
young
you
people
fine. We
don't.
right here with you. We right here with you. I was
You
gonna
got
say,
you right here with me. Thank you.
yeah. If you hit that middle share screen right in the middle,
That's
there we
right
go.
here.
There we go.
That's right here. And hold on for 1 second. Slideshow. I know the young people tonight, they know all this new technology.
They come out the womb
Okay.
and all this stuff.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. So we're gonna start out with let me see. Can you all see that? Everybody's good? All right. So we're going to start out with the first question that we received from Mr. Cole. I think it was your question. And that is, what is zoning? Right? What is it? I mean, what does it entail? And so, like I say, I'm gonna come directly from research and what I know. And zoning is the law. You can see it, you can read with me. I won't read every word, but zoning is the law that determines how land or property can be used in a city and or county. So while you all are going to school or going to McDonald's, Burger King, Chick-fil-A, wherever you're going, before that was built, someone had to get a zoning permit. The zoning permit dictates what can go on the property based on zoning. So everybody's with me, right? So you all, where you at tonight? You at home in a house, right? That was built. That's a structure that was built. And your parents had to get a zoning permit, or whoever built your house that you're in tonight, that you were able to come with us, they had to get a zoning permit. Is anything you learned from me tonight, Cherie, is that in order to build something, you have to have a zoning permit. And basically what it does is it regulates activities or uses that can take place on the property. And it also regulates the size of the buildings, how big that house can be. Or if your parents thinking about getting a pool for you, they have to get a zoning permit and they have to tell the city or county what size that pool they want to make that pool. And then the county will tell them what size they can have. And it also helps with promoting good orderly development. So when you have a house, you don't have a house next to an industrial plant, right? You want to keep residential kind of together and you want to put commercial together. But no one wants a house that's right next to a McDonald's or right next to an industrial manufacturing plant, okay? So you all get that. So that's the answer to your first question.
Can I
Anything,
add
Cherie?
something, Mr.
Yes,
Williams?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So a long time ago, before Mr. Williams and or I were born, in about 1912, that's a long time ago, right? Y'all, that's a long time ago. There was a building in New York City called the Equitable Building, and you can go Google this. It was the tallest building in the city. And the person who built it wanted it to be the tallest building in the city. And surrounding it were shorter buildings. So when they built this really tall building, that building cast a shadow on all of the other buildings around it. A shadow all day long. Could you imagine not being able to see sun all day long? I can't. So when this building was built so tall, the people living around it was like, I can't get the sun in my house and I don't like this. This is not okay. Sometimes when you don't feel sun, when it's like cloudy outside, don't you feel sometimes like people start feeling like they want to go to sleep or they get depressed, they don't feel cheerful. And so what the people did was say, we got to do something to regulate, to make sure we don't have a whole bunch of buildings that's very tall, that's casting a shadow. And so out of that need to make sure that there were buildings surrounding other buildings that sort of fit in, there was this need to have zoning. So that's where it came from. Not wanting, like Mr. Williams said, to have a tuna fish factory next to a house, right? Do you want to have a tuna fish factory next to your house? It might be smelly, right? There's a lot of cars coming in and out. So in order to make sure there's things that's surrounding property that's compatible, that's a big word, but compatible, meaning it goes together, zoning laws were enacted. And I just wanted to give that history of that, if that's okay with you, Mr. Williams.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Cherie, for sharing that. I think history is important to give context, give your foundation by which things were started. So we'll move to the next question in the essence of time. Okay, this is a big word, and I'm gonna break it down, but your question was, what is economic development? Again, what is economic development? Economic development is the creation of wealth, and it's more than a jobs program, but it's about investment in a growing community such as Anson County, and it enhances the quality of life. So to break it down, it's about land, that I point here, labor, plus money, it's capital, but capital is money. And that equals economic development. So that your mom, dad, aunt, uncles, older brothers and sisters can have a job. In order for a community to thrive, there has to be, people have to have jobs. And sometimes it takes government like Anson County to create the environment such that jobs can be created. So while you are at school, or at home sleeping, County Commissioner here tonight, Mr. Chair, they're working always trying to bring jobs to Anson County. So we don't want to make it hard, but when you think of economic development, you think of land. I want you to think of land, labor, and capital. All right, and money. Does everyone get that? Just kind of put your thumbs up. Let me know. Everybody understands that, right? Land, labor, and money equals economic development. All right. Won't belabor that too long. I think you get that. It's all about the jobs. It's all about the jobs. Okay. All right, we'll move on. Cherie, you have anything? All right. You gave us another question. What opportunities may be available for me and my family when the zoning ordinance is finalized? Okay, the opportunities you may have is if you have land next to you that is vacant, it can be protected from uses that you may not want to be next to. Cherie said a tuna fish factory. I agree with her. I don't want to live next to that either. So that's the things that you and your family would enjoy if a zoning ordinance is approved and finalized in Anson County. You'll get the opportunity to be involved. So if someone's building a Chick-fil-A down the street, or if somebody's thinking about building a brand new apartment complex or a brand new school, you'll get an opportunity to be involved with the planning of that school, of that Chick-fil-A, whatever that new use may be. You'll get opportunity because you do have zoning. Without zoning, the developer, the person that's building the restaurant or the plant, they don't have to get a permit. And so you want to be involved. So those are the opportunities that you and your family would have. Okay. It's about empowering you to be a part of your community. All right. We're going to move on unless Cherie.
I was going to say, yes, that's because the elected officials, they get a lot of their information from the citizens who live in Anson County. And because they can't be everywhere all the time. And so if there's someone who wants to build a Chick-fil-A, the way in which they get their information is through a public hearing, right, David? Or just calls or emails about what are some things that you want to make sure if this property were made into a Chick-fil-A, what are some things we want to make sure we protect or we see there? And so they need to hear from you. So your family will definitely be able to provide input for how in which the county develops over time from this point forward.
And Cherie, I would add to it as well. Your parents, grandparents, uncles, they've made an investment into their properties and they want that property protected so that down the road, if they want to bequeath the property, whatever the case, or sell it, what have you, it's been protected, right? So part of it is also making sure it's like, you got that new bike, or some of you looking at getting that new car because you're close to being 16. When you get that new car at 16, your parents are going to tell you, don't just put anyone in your car. Don't let them dirty your car up. Don't drive the car in mud, because they want you to protect that car so you can have it as long as you can and it retains that value. Okay. So that's what it's also about. So we'll move on to the next question as well. So you also had a question about who influences or impacts a zoning ordinance. That's everybody in the community. You as young people have an opportunity. I will encourage you, work with Mr. Cole, work with Miss Janine to get involved, okay? The residents of Anson County, they're key stakeholders, and that's a big fancy word for the community and you yourself. Local government, local businesses that you go in. Some of you go to the barbershop to get your hair cut. That's a local business. You have an opportunity to impact how Anson County grows in the future. And so you have an opportunity to influence the decisions that the county commission and or city council make. They make laws that regulate businesses like barbershops, hair salons, law offices, medical offices. You have an opportunity to impact that. So as most people think that it's only the elected officials, but like Cherie said earlier, the elected officials, the county commission and the city council, they're wanting your input. Okay. All right, we'll move to the next slide for the next question. Okay. So you had another question. Why are zoning ordinances important? Zoning ordinances are important for the reasons stated on the PowerPoint and what we talked about earlier. Economic development and jobs. It makes properties more attractive to people that want to come to Anson County. And it reduces the risks of coming to Gaston County. If I'm going to come and build in Anson County, I want my property protected. It protects values. It reduces like nuisances, like, if someone got a lot of junk cars all over the place, or someone's, for example, have a lot of high grass or something, or if the housing is vacant and you've seen these houses, they're not looking too good, right? They have boarded up, the grass all around them, and they're not necessarily safe, right? We call those, dilapidated housing. That's a big word, but I think you get it. The housing is not really great. It allows for the county to enforce these ordinances. But the one thing I want you to get out tonight is, you don't want your community in which you're growing up to become the dumping grounds, and you end up with a whole bunch of what you call Lulus. Does anybody know what a Lulu is? Well, you'll know.
I do.
You know what a Lulu is? What is a Lulu? Who said that?
That was me. I was just joking, Mr. Woods. I know what a Lulu is.
So a Lulu is, and I want you to remember, that is a locally unwanted land use. That's something that you don't want in your community, right? It's something that is just going to bring the community down. So that's what a Lulu is, okay? All right. We'll move to the next slide. Cherie, you have anything to add?
No, I think you covered it. It's to protect property values and to increase the chances for economic development. And then to also protect the community against getting any kind of development, which they may not want. So it's just that basic.
Thank you. Next question, why was Anson County one of the last counties to consider zoning? That's a great question, because the map indicates that in pink is the only county right here that's in the region that does not have county-wide zoning. So that's a great question. You all know this stuff. You ask these kind of questions. These are pretty complex questions and complicated. You all putting Cherie and I on the spot here a little bit, but we would say probably because Anson has been fairly a rural county, meaning agricultural. You all see a lot of farms in Anson County, and because Anson hasn't grown probably as much, but because of the rural nature, the economic development opportunities have been limited, jobs that is. And so I would say because of the rural nature of Anson County. And you say, well, Mr. Williams, what do you mean by rural? Well, that means that it's farms and open space. There's no buildings. In Anson County, whether you're going, I can't, Mr. Cole know all the roads. I wish I remember some of the roads. I should, I've been down there so much. But if you're going out into the county, if you're going to church or whatever the case may be, you only see farms and open land. That's what I mean by rural, okay? Cherie.
Yeah, and also, family-owned land that may have been passed on to another family member for residential uses, meaning that their houses, their homes in the community, the development of a home doesn't really have a negative impact on another home. And so the need for a zoning would not be something that the community were pushing for. But most recently, there have been changes in ownership of property, meaning somebody sold their land to someone else, and that someone else decided not to put a home there or anything else. They wanted to put a use, like maybe an ATV park or some other use that the community members didn't like. And so then they'll call down to the county and say, hey, what's going on this property? And we don't like what the use is. And so then they had to just say that there's nothing we can do. That's their land, they own it, and they can build on it what they want. And so there was a lot of that going on. And so that eventually led to people saying, wait a minute, we need to have some sort of tool to help us regulate how land is used in our community. And so that's why we're here with helping to develop that zoning. Put in the chat box if you feel like you want to have a say in what might be built in the community in the future. Like you really would like not to have, like I said, that tuna fish factory built next to you. If you think it's important for the community to know that we're having compatible land use, just put a yes or a no. Do you think zoning is important for a community?
Yeah, exactly. Great, Cherie. And put those things in there and we'll continue on.
That's right.
And and that'll probably come to play in terms of process of creating zoning. And in the essence of time, I'll hit these fairly quickly. The process is basically trying to understand what is on the ground in your community, and then also understanding what ordinances look like around the region and also the state. Because one thing you don't want to do is you can't have a zoning ordinance regulations too restrictive, because then it makes it too difficult to build, especially when you're starting out. But you don't want it to be too light where you have a zoning ordinance, but things can still come in. We're actually trying to create a zoning ordinance for Anson County. We call it zoning light. You all can remember that, zoning light, meaning that we're going to gradually recommend the regulations. We're going to recommend that the regulations be more of a gradual approach to coming in. They're flexible, but you still have protections. And so that's what we're going to be doing. We also have to meet and review ordinances with the public and elected officials and the community. And we've done that. And we talked about earlier, you've been involved. You have to get involved. You don't have to wait till you're 40 or 50 and 60 to get involved. You can get involved right now in elementary. You can get involved in middle school, and you can get involved in high school. So that's the process of creating zoning. I'll move to the next question you had. Not bad. This is a great question. like I said, you all must be future planners. That's all I can say, because you asking all the right questions. How long does it take to complete an ordinance? It all depends on the size of the county and or city and the scope, meaning uh what is it that you're trying to put in that ordinance? So generally it can be 6 months, it can be 1 year, or it can even be more. But let me give you an example. If you're developing a zoning ordinance for like the city of Charlotte, which I know you all are familiar with, Carolina Panthers and the Charlotte Hornets, the city, you've been to Charlotte, right? Most of you all have been to Charlotte. That city is so huge, it'll probably take them at least 2 years to develop a zoning ordinance, because there's almost 1 million people in Charlotte. So you have to go out to the community and meet with those individuals in the community and get input. When you have a smaller community like the city, like a city that's 10,000, it doesn't take as long, generally. And so that answers that question. It depends on the size, but generally they can go from 6 months to around 2 years. Okay. We'll move on to the next question. Okay, that was the last question. Okay, so Mr. Cole, that we hopefully answer all your questions. You have future planners and architects and
So
construction.
I'll give you some background.
Oh, yes,
We
sir.
so I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago. We met and we had a prep meeting. So I gave them some background information. We got to sit and kind of think through some of the questions. So they did have some good questions, and I think and I'm looking at everybody. Um, did they answer most of the questions? If they did answer your question, put your hand up. Let me see. Were there any were there any lingering questions?
Michael Chance there.
I see Micah's on. All right, so Michael had one. So now's the
Okay.
chance. We're gonna do a quick panel, right? I have Mr. Williams, Miss Shazar, Miss Janine. Any of y'all can chime in whenever you want to. But we had about 8 or 10 questions, but like I said, y'all answered most of them. So we'll let Micah have one, and then I will have one to kind of sum up at the end. Put y'all on the hot seat just for a little bit. So Micah, go ahead, sir, and ask your question. Can you hear us, Micah? I don't think we can hear him. Yeah, we can't hear him. It might be something going. Try it now. Say hello. We can't hear. Oh man,
Can you all hear us?
we we
He
can't
was
hear you.
able to put his to chat. He
Put
put
it in
a
chat.
Put it in
response.
the
Maybe
chat,
he can
Micah.
try to put it in the chat box, because we can see him, but we just can't hear you.
Well, while he's typing that in, I'll go ahead and kind of. All right. So for my 4-Hers, my Anson youth leaders, my members at large, and all my other youth, do any of y'all? And you can be honest with me. When you're riding through Monroe, through Charlotte, do you ever just get a little bit jealous? Nah, nobody. I see somebody shaking their head. I see somebody clapping hand. All right. So that's why, if that reason alone should be, one of the reasons at least why this should interest you, right? Because we have a great opportunity to have some things put in Anson, right? And so we won't look like Monroe, this time next year, right? But there's a chance that if we start with you guys, some of y'all, like Mr. Williams said, become planners and business owners and all that good stuff, and y'all can really build up the infrastructure and that economic development in Anson County. Y'all can be part of that. So, with that being said, I guess my question, kind of representing the group, would be, all right. So, with other rural counties, right? So Anson County qualifies as a rural county. What kind of trends, as far as zoning, are y'all seeing that is working for other rural counties that may possibly work for Anson, if that makes sense? I think you're unmuted, Janine.
So is that question for me?
So it could be, so for our panel, it could be for Janine, Mr. Williams, or Mrs. Shazar. So any one of y'all can chime in on that.
Well, Mr. Williams alluded to this in his presentation, and I'm going to assume, correct me if I'm wrong, being a rural county is a whole lot different than urban counties. Places like Charlotte, the zoning is going to be totally different than what it's going to be for a rural county. In a rural county, you have larger landowners. There's more acreage involved. And one of the reasons that Ms. Cherie also spoke to, that we're so late in getting zoning in Anson County, is that a lot of our landowners didn't want it. They didn't want the government telling them what to do with their property. That's why we're so late to the ball game. But at this point, as you can see, everybody else around us has zoning and we don't. So if we don't do something to protect ourselves, we may wind up a dumping ground. What's working in rural counties is keeping it from being so restrictive so that you can still do things with your property, but having protections so that you don't wind up a dumping ground. So the things in rural counties that seem to work, Mr. Williams refers to it as zoning light. So it's not heavy duty, all out, very strict zoning like they probably have in Charlotte, because they have to with all that they have going on up there. In Anson County, it's going to be zoning light so that it's not as restrictive, so that landowners will feel comfortable with it, but we're still going to be protected. And it's my assumption that that is what works well in other rural counties as well. Correct?
You're spot on. I can't follow that up, Mr. Nings. You're spot on. At the end of the day, it's about protection. And that protection can come in so many different ways. And like Ms. Janine is saying, is long as the county, people have property can still develop, but they can protect what comes next to them. That's really what we're after. That's the foundation. You got to start somewhere. And so we're trying to start at the foundation of having zones that says this is residential, commercial, and industrial. Right now, Anson has no zones. The only zones you have is what you call no zone. That's a form of zoning, but it's called no zoning. So if I build a house, Micah, Malik, Charisma, if I build a house, right now somebody can come next to me and build a juke jam box or whatever the case may be. They can build one ATV, all-terrain vehicle track, and you trying to rest or study for homework, and is somebody got a boombox facility or use next to you, there's nothing that the county can do about it. So
now you're showing your age, Mr. Williams. Boombox.
That's right, boombox jam. Hopefully you all are getting it, but I think you get it from a perspective of, like Janine said, we're trying to get zoning districts. There'll be regulations in it, but the zoning districts and put them around the county will say, this is set up for residential, this is set up for commercial and industrial. You have what you call a land use plan that guides it. But right now, anything pretty much goes. And so when Mr. Janine's talking about the dumping grounds or those Lulus, I was talking about locally unwanted land uses, they're going to come. They're going to continue to come. And we know what happens when they come. People complain, and they'll complain to Mr. Chairman Woodburn. He gets the calls. He can tell you. County manager gets the call. They call the commissioners, and their hands are tied right now. And so this process goes through, if someone says, well, they're running some type of business down there, you know, is that Mrs. Chance right there? I'm gonna call on Miss Chance a little bit. Miss Chance might say, somebody's running a business down there and it's just banging all night. She can call the planning department and file a complaint, and they can check into it if zoning's in place. And if it doesn't meet it, the county can go down and send a notice of violation, say you need to stop the use or bring it in compliance. Right now, Ms. Chance, you don't have that tool available to do.
Thank you. Thank you. Micah, did you want to, well, I'll read it out for him since we can't hear him. Um, so Micah, he answers those first two. So how will zoning ordinance affect me and my family? He answered that. And then what is economic development? He answered that. So I will ask this last one, which they kind of touch on, but what is the difference between commercial and industrial zoning?
Cherie, you want to, and I'll follow up.
Sure. So commercial zoning includes uses of land that may be like a retail store, like and a retail store would be like a Kohl's, or it could also be like a Dollar Tree, a Family Dollar, even a Walmart. So those types of stores, it can even be like a boutique for clothes, or it could be a shoe store. So commercial zoning could be that, and it could also be somebody that has an office, like a dental office or a doctor's office. So that's the commercial zone. Any business use that sells something or provides a service. Industrial zoning is like a warehouse. It could also be a factory in there. It could be a factory that creates paper, that makes paint, that produces something, that has a lot of trucks coming in and out of it. They could produce tools. They could produce, let's say, what else? A wood. So they could do wood cutting, like 84 lumber. So it's a place where they create stuff and ship it in and out to people. So commercial usually has people from the community coming into a store to shop, or coming into the store to get a service, a nail salon, a hair salon. So those are the commercial versus industrial. Oh, somebody said, he says, what about school or churches? So schools and churches are in a zone called institutional. So a school and a church are institutions where people come to do certain things. Yeah, I see you shaking your head, right? So if any faith-based place, whether it be a church or a synagogue or a mosque, could be institutional. A university, like a college, or preschool, those types of things are institutional uses, or a library, a public use. Keep it coming, Michael. You're doing good. Okay.
That's
I
a
see
good.
you a
Those are
future
good
planner
questions.
here.
We
Quick, and
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and add to Cherie, we Michael and everyone, she meant, commercial and industrial. You also have institutional, but then you may have varying type zoning districts, like multifamily, like for apartments. Okay, some of you probably familiar with that. So you have different type zoning districts. Like you might have a mixed use district. What is that, Mr. Williams? Well, you may have an office right on the bottom of a building and apartments on the top. We call that vertical mixed use. That's a big word, but you see vertical is up. Sometimes it's horizontal mixed use, meaning it's on the same level. So but the main ones are residential, institutional, industrial, and commercial. And that's what we're going to be proposing to Anson County, some of the basic type zoning districts, and to hopefully help with economic development and property tax.
Did anybody else have any? Oh, great questions, Micah. We can't hear you, but you giving us the heat.
That's your future planner.
All right now. All
Well,
right.
I don't have a question, but I guess I kind of have an example of what they're talking about. I live in the 1 mile perimeter of the city limits. And when they was talking about putting in a hydroponic plant out in our area, we had to keep going back up to the town hall to the meetings to see exactly what it was going to be about. And we finally agreed that it could be put out here. Our biggest concern was the traffic, because we are in a little narrow road in a small community, and the park, we already have the park right across from us. But it has never materialized. I have no idea what happened today, but it passed and they had a zone to put it out here. But our biggest fight came from a private investor at first. When he came down here, he's from Monroe, and he wanted to put a housing, well, not a housing development, behind our house. That he had bought some land and he found out he couldn't do with it what he wanted to because it doesn't perk well. And he found some other issues with it. So he wanted to put mobile homes back there. He was going to do all this. He wasn't going to be an absentee landlord, but we fought that, and we fought it hard, and the town council would not pass it for him. A couple of years later, he came back. He wanted to put a car dumpster back there, and we said, no, we ain't having all these rats and everything coming out the woods and back, because everything he was wanting to put back there is right back of some of our homes. And most of us on this end are kind of senior citizens, and most of the community is senior citizens. And then he came back about 2 years later. He's wanting to put a big park. He wanted to put a place where you could hook up your RVs, and he's gonna put in streets and light. And I mean, he had a well drawn out plan of what he was gonna do. They was putting these screws to him because they was telling him point blank, if he didn't put in everything he said it was, that whether it passed or not, he wasn't gonna put it out here. So it did finally, they finally told him he could put it out there. But so far we haven't seen anything, and that's been over this was before COVID. And we hadn't seen any sign of him trying to put anything out here, but we've had to fight him tooth and nail. But the way he had it laid out, we wouldn't have to worry too much about people coming through our backyards, and he was gonna have to put in a high fence and leave some trees in between the houses and put in bunkers, so we wouldn't be bothered that much. And so none of that has come to pass. I think the final thing I think that he did, I think he just wanted to prove that he could get something done.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's a pretty good example of.
Mhm.
Yeah. But okay.
That is it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Ms. Betty. Well, if nobody has any more other questions, I'm gonna reshare my screen. We'll get through this PowerPoint. Can everybody see my PowerPoint screen?
Yeah, Mr. Cole, can I say one other thing?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Take me 30 seconds.
Go ahead.
You all, most of you are in middle school, you're getting ready to go into high school. If you want to know what it takes to become an urban planner and an architect, whatever case may be, we're urban planners, Sharia and I. So you see on the screen, AICP. That designation means American Institute of Certified Planners. And so in order for you to be a planner, you have to go to college. You can major in urban planning, city and regional planning. So I just want to get that out. If you wonder how to become what we're doing, and we're going to need individuals in planning like yourselves down the road. Somebody may choose to go somewhere else, but I want you to know we did go to college, so you'll have to do that. And we also went to graduate school to get a master's degree. And so you can do that. You just put your mind to it like a plan, set the plan, make it simple and plain, write it down on a piece of paper. After tonight, I just ask you, you're talking about the county doing plans. We ask you to do your plan too for yourself. Don't have to be complicated. Just write it down on a piece of paper and say 3 years, 5 years, what I want to be. That's what the county, Anson counties did with their land use plan. Where do they want to be in 20 years? You need to do your own plan too. What do you want to be?
Mr. Williams, Malik asked, does the planner make good money?
You're a planner, you can respond to that too.
No, you're talking, so you have to answer that question.
Yeah, yes. I would say relatively speaking, I don't know, Malik, when you're talking about how much, but typical planners, depending on size, I had this question from I teach at UNCC. I got the question the other night, had a couple speakers. Depending on where you can be, it can range from $75,000 a year up to $150,000 to $200,000 a year. Just depends on the size of the community. Let me give you some context. If you're a planning director in Charlotte, you're planning Charlotte, over all of it, you're probably making about $200,000 a year. But if you're in like Monroe, which y'all familiar with, you're probably making 120 a year, 130,000. So they do make good money. It's great working conditions, but at the end, you have an opportunity to impact your community.
And Micah's mom wants to know if safety for the community is top priority in making zoning plans. Absolutely. That's one of the, like I said, the whole idea of zoning came out of the need to make sure that there were provisions that the government had to make sure safety was something that could be regulated. Health and public safety is one of the biggest tenets of zoning. Safety in terms of we don't want pollutants next to a place where people live, right? We don't want a factory that's emitting bad air into the environment. We don't want it to put anything into our water. We don't want a lot of noise. We don't want a lot of lights. So health and safety is one of the top priorities when making zoning plans. And in the Anson County's zoning that Ability Development Group is working on, a lot of the bufferage, like Ms. Betty talked about, a lot of the site improvements that if a development were to occur, that's all for health and public safety. Correct, David? So yeah, that answer is yes. Okay. And like David said, if there's any additional questions, you can send an email, Mr. Cole, he can share that with us and we'll be happy to answer any more questions. And we enjoyed talking with you all and sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams and Mr. Czar. Y'all give a silent round of applause. Thank y'all for coming and spending some time with us and breaking down the ins and outs of what a zoning ordinance is. All right, so kind of transitioning, getting to an ending point. I did want to recognize our essay winner. So we did a couple of weeks ago. I put it out there. I know a lot of kids don't have homework these days. It's different now, y'all. Kids don't really have homework nowadays. But I gave the homework assignment. There was a newspaper article in the Express that talked about the zoning ordinance and kind of what the different rounds that we had gone through to kind of get some of the information and feedback from the public. And I had one person to do the essay, and that was Mr. Malik Cooper. So y'all give it up for Mr. Malik Cooper. I have a very nice prize set for him. So we'll stay in contact, Malik. I'll catch you. Let me see if I can spotlight him. Somebody spotlight Malik real quick so we can see his face. All right. Announcements and upcoming events. All right, so this is a part where we'll talk about upcoming events that we have going on. There goes Malik, our winner. Wave your hand one time. There we go. Good job, Malik. All right, so upcoming announcements, events coming up. So the Caraway Foundation, they're hosting a vaccination event on December 11th. Miss Caraway is in a meeting, so she was not able to talk more about this, but I'm sure that she will talk more about it. You'll probably see something on Facebook, I'm assuming, but they are having a vaccination event on December the 11th, which will be this coming up Saturday. So just keep your eyes open for that. Network Anson, they're having a book discussion on December the 14th, next Tuesday. Miss Devin Pettiford, if she wants to talk about it a little bit, go ahead, but I just registered.
I don't mind.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Sam. Just a quick note, registration is required for participation in this event. We'd love to have any and everyone that is interested on the topic of this book, Laziness Does Not Exist by Dr. Devon Price. And you can go to our Facebook page. It's Networks Anson. and get more information, including the link to register. In addition to that, people that actually register, of course, and attend will be put into a drawing in order to win one of 2 tablets, Samsung Galaxy Tab A's, and those were donated by our partners at WellCare. So if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. And thank you again, Sam.
No problem. All right. Thank you, Miss Pettiford. This is for our other friends at the partnership. They are hosting a carpool cinema and literacy night. The way it was explained to me, this should be really interesting. Should be fun. It'll be a chance for the kids to come out. I think they have some activities for the some literacy activities for the kids. They'll be able to sit in the cars, and then they'll wrap up the night with a viewing of The Grinch. From what I understand, they're gonna have a movie screen out there in the parking lot, and you can tune in on your radio. So that should be fun. That'll be on Friday, December the 17th. And then on December 22nd, Wednesday, December 22nd, Anson County 4-H will be hosting our Christmas workshop. There are prices, ages 8 to 15. Registration will be open until full. You need to come down in person. No call-ins. No call-ins. So please come down if you're interested and register for that. We'll be doing some crafts. We're actually going to meet up with Miss Edwards down at the Studio 256. She's a very handy dandy person with her yarn, and she's gonna give us some Christmas crafts to work on, and we'll have some games and other stuff. So if you're interested in that, please come down to the extension office and check us out. And I'll go ahead and put this out here for my 4-Hers. We're having winter enrichment. That'll be coming up on January the 15th. That's gonna be a Saturday. This year I'm on the South Central District Advisory Board. Well, not advisory board, but the advisory for the officers. And so for the South Central District, we have a youth president, vice president, treasurer, and all that stuff. So they are planning a really fun winter enrichment. I want to say it's going to be in Cabarrus County this year, but they're still working on that. If you're interested, please reach out to me. I typically will allow the first 5 people who registered to go over no charge. So if you're interested in that, just stay in contact with me. And then we'll have our Anson County 4-H campaign fundraiser coming up in March, a little further down the road, but we'll talk about it more in the coming months. But I did want to go ahead and put that in y'all's ear. And this is everybody's information that if you need to reach out with them. Mr. Williams or Mr. Jar, if y'all want to put y'all's, I neglected to put y'all's contact information on here, forgive me. But if you want to put it in the chat box so that people can take it if they may have other questions. But other than that, that was all we have tonight. Again, I want to thank Mr. Williams and Mrs. Shazar for taking the time. Mrs. Janine Wright coming in and taking the time to break down the in and outs of what a zoning ordinance is. I also want to thank you all, our panel, our youth. Like I said, our youth, they came with questions and you all answered them. So I thank my youth for taking the time to meet and to prep for this. And then our commissioner and everybody else who was on tonight. I shouldn't have started naming people because I won't name everybody. But again, I want to thank everybody for being on. I hope you learned something. The 2040 usage plan is in 19 years. And so most of you all will be older and possibly making some of the decisions and just some of y'all will be old enough to really, you all will be impacted by this. So hopefully you're taking this in and seeing how you can have your voice heard in this. So if everybody is good, we'll wrap this thing up and we'll end it with a good night. Y'all take care. Enjoy the rest of your evening and happy holidays to you all.
Thank you. Happy holidays to everyone.
Same here.